Breaking news on the Mueller investigation. Word just now, President Trump today answered written questions submitted by the special counsel's office. The questions presented dealt with issues regarding the Russia-related topics of the inquiry. The president responded in writing. That's from Jay Sekulow. He's counsel to the president. I want to bring an IFRA law partner, former Department of Justice prosecutor, Jim Trusty. Jim, this is sort of the moment we've all been waiting for, and it feels like maybe this could sort of expedite us to some sort of resolution here. What do you make of the fact that President Trump has finally submitted these answers? It didn't take long. He said he would do it. Where does this take us?
Well, look, I think there's bigger moments to come, but this is a pivotal one. And it's really, I think, a victory for the White House in that, you know, he's been called a subject, not a target. That's a very important distinction that his lawyers have talked to him about, you know, ad nauseum. And to have a situation where you have a take-home test where the homework comes to you and you sit down and you fill it out with some level of assistance from your attorneys, that's a good moment for him. And I also think the probe probably doesn't expect that there's going to be, you know, heart-wringing confessions coming back on the paper that they get from the president. So it smells a little bit more like checking a box before we get to the conclusion of the probe.
James, I want to read the other part of the release. This is from Rudy Giuliani, also counsel to President Trump. Quote, "It has been our position from the outset that much of what has been asked raised serious constitutional issues and was beyond the scope of legitimate inquiry. This remains our position today. The president has nonetheless provided unprecedented cooperation. The special counsel has been provided with more than 30 witnesses, 1.4 million pages of material, and now the president's written response to questions. It is time to bring this inquiry to a conclusion." Rudy Giuliani, counsel to the president. Your thoughts?
Well, that's the right approach for the president's attorney to take, which is to say, you know, essentially enough's enough, let's end this thing. I think it's probably heading that way, partly because of these questions, partly because of some other things that have been happening, like announcing that they're ready for Flynn's sentencing in the fairly near future. There's still some litigation going on behind closed doors, it sounds like, but I think we're talking end of the year as opposed to end of next year. And again, the president has every right to basically announce that he's done with his homework assignment and he's tired of seeing this thing go on, but it's probably got a little bit of a shelf life left before it finishes up.
James, the way this was established, there won't be any more back and forth, right? Mueller gets these questions, these answers, rather. He has to live with them. He doesn't ask another round. He can't send another tranche of questions, can he?
Well, he can always try, but I have to think that it's either already been negotiated away by the president's team or that even in the most aggressive of moments that the Mueller team would realize that's just going to be a dead end. And that's really part of the win for the president here on this issue, because he can answer questions with kind of platitudes or very broad comments and know that there's not going to be any form of cross-examination or even a detailed follow-up. That's a pretty easy homework assignment in most instances.
There have been arrests, there have been trials, there have been some indictments, but there really, from what I can see, hasn't been anything that connects a sort of obstruction of justice or the White House themselves, President Trump, you know, dealing with the Russians. You know, you've got some Russian folks that Mueller and company are looking for that probably will never come to this country to face that justice, and some other peripheral players, if you will. So what does this tell you if we are near this and it can happen before the end of the year?
Well, I'd like to see whatever the report says. I'm assuming there's going to be a written report that sees daylight. I think there's a very strong likelihood the report chronicles just how bad the Russian attempts are at interfering with our elections. But, of course, that doesn't mean people are knowingly colluding with them. And the very first indictment the team came up with said that there was unwitting connections to the campaign. It may stay that way, and if so, that's not a bad day for the president.
James, thank you very much. We've got more on this. We'll be right back.
Sure. Thanks.